Hi, my name's Daryl, and here's the Jeep news for the week of November 4th. So in our first story, and this really excites me, Bestop has come out with, or they've acquired, a new product for both the Jeep Wrangler and the Ford Bronco, and they're calling it the E-Top, which is a fully electric, fully retractable soft top for the Jeep Wrangler and Ford Bronco. So here's an example of what it looks like. Now this is on a Ford Bronco, so it's likely to look a little bit different on a Jeep Wrangler. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever really had much like this. I'm not sure exactly how long the MyTop company made this retractable soft top for Jeep Wranglers and Ford Broncos. But yeah, this is really exciting news, and to put the Bestop name behind it will give it a little more kind of gusto and a little more making sure that it's going to be, working well. I think it does have a 3-year warranty on it, and it supposedly is good for 10,000 different retractions and putting the top back on again. And so yeah, it should last for quite a while. It'll be really interesting to see if Jeep maybe starts incorporating this into the new generation of Wranglers. Now, I don't really have an issue with the soft top in taping it down or putting it up. The big problem for me is the vinyl windows. So the vinyl windows are pretty easy to take off, but to put the vinyl windows back on again, that is quite a chore. Now, they're expecting it to be available for around $5,000, and they say it's set to basically sell around November 8th. So yeah, go ahead and check that out on Bestop, and I bet there's going to be a line to get them. So yeah, you might want to put yours on order soon. Now, in more Jeep news, and this is really more about Stellantis, I found this on Motor Trend. I actually found it on the JL Wrangler forums initially, and then found it on Motor Trend. But it says the Stellantis is disappoints. They haven't been doing very well, and they vow to do better. So yeah, the third quarter earnings for Stellantis were really down quite a bit, even worse than expected. They got rid of or ousted the old CFO, and they got a new CFO in there a couple weeks ago, and his name is Osterman, and he's been working really hard to try to reduce inventory on the Jeep dealership. So if you drive by Jeep dealerships, you're going to see a lot of Wranglers, a lot of 4xEs, basically just a lot of automobiles. They've been a little bit overpriced, and one of the other problems is, I think because of supply shortages and perhaps some of the expected supply chain shortages with like the shipping industry and the dock strikes, I think they were trying to increase production just in case those things happened. So they wanted to be prepared if there was a kind of a turn down and all of a sudden people were buying again. But that didn't happen, and so, they're too expensive and they're on the lots and people just aren't buying them. So they have done some things to reduce the pricing on 2024s. They've really slashed the prices on them, and they've even dropped the prices on 2025s. So yeah, they're saying that they're going to do better. They also say that they're with some of the new vehicles that they have coming out, they have multiple powertrain options. And so, think about like the Ram 1500 with the new Ram Charger with their plug-in hybrid with their V6 being the generator kind of a powertrain. It's kind of like a plug-in hybrid, but really not a plug-in hybrid. So I think they're going to have a whole bunch of different powertrains to choose from. And I think, people like the opportunity of the flexibility to choose the kind of engine that they want and the powertrain that they want. So, I did have a story about Stellantis really sticking to their EV strategy, but hopefully they're going to let consumer demand really dictate the kind of vehicles and the kind of powertrains that they have available. And in our last piece of news, and this is kind of in a similar vein, I actually found this also on the JL Wrangler forum where somebody talked about that story that Stellantis disappoints, but they're going to try to do better. Well, there's been some issues with the 4xE, and they've been Stellantis has really been slashing the prices on it. They've been offering a whole bunch of incentives on the 4xe. There's a really great lease on the 4xe, I think for $379. So it's just really some amazing deals. Now, I would have a hard time recommending the 4xe based on some of the recalls that they have, but I did do a review on the 4xe, you know, and if the thing didn't have any problems, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a great powertrain. But, you know, there are some issues with it. Nevertheless, there are some great deals on 4xEs. Now, they are offering $7,500 off because of it being an EV, and when they lease it, there are some interesting differences between leasing and buying a 4xe and how the federal government, what they'll offer you in regards to tax incentives. So if you were a consumer and you wanted to purchase a 4xe, you could only get $3,750 off of your tax return as a federal tax credit. However, if you lease it, the leasing company actually gets that tax credit, and a lot of leasing companies and manufacturers have then been offering that to the consumer. And so a lot of Jeep consumers and a lot of Jeep 4xe buyers have been taking advantage of that lease and then buying it outright. So like within a month afterwards, first they lease it and then they work with Stellantis Financial Services and then they buy it out. Well, when that happens, Stellantis Financial Services doesn't get the whole amount from the government because it was bought out early. So, oh, and if you are interested in doing something like this, I've got a video here that somebody else created that talked about his experience with buying out. And you can see, you know, kind of the incentives that they offered. So we actually had a federal tax incentive of $7,500 that basically Jeep offered to him, as well as a Maryland tax incentive of $3,000. And so this is kind of what he paid and the amount of money he saved. And he also has a screen over here, which kind of talks about the total savings he actually had. So you might want to check that out if you are interested in maybe leasing a 4xe and then buying it out. But back to the original story here. So when a buyer or when a leaser buys out that lease, well, Stellantis doesn't get the full $7,500 check. And so they sent out a memo to the dealers basically saying that if a consumer decides to purchase out their lease, then the dealer has to send Stellantis Financial Services a $1,425 check because the consumer did that. And so, I mean, that's not exactly fair to the dealer because they can't control what a consumer does, right? So I guess the dealers kind of balked, and I guess there's a dealers council, and they had a meeting, probably like an emergency meeting. And then so the council got back to Stellantis, and you know, there's probably a mutiny going on. And then Stellantis, within about 24 hours or so, they reversed the policy and sent out a revised email or memo that saying that they've dropped this idea, and you know, if a dealer sent them the check, that they'll send them back the money. So just a lot of stuff going on with Stellantis, and it's tough to see. I mean, it's really, you know, with all the corrosion issues that they've had on the JL and all the money they must be spending on that, and then all of the 4xe recalls and possibly having to replace so many batteries on the 4xEs. Oh, you know, they're just kind of in a hurt. But I still love the Jeep Wrangler, so I don't have a 4xe, but ultimately, you know, you do want Stellantis to do well, or at least Stellantis to sell the Jeep product to somebody else who will take maybe a little bit better care of it. Anyhow, so that's the Jeep news / Stellantis news for the week of November 4th. If you like this kind of content, you may want to consider subscribing to the channel, and hopefully I'll see you next week, depending on what news comes next.